I get a lot of questions from individuals about my holistic value creation model and how I sort of apply it to the world, decision making, how I view things. And it shouldn't be new, and I don't think the elements of it really are new. However, applying it holistically, which talks about material value creation, emotional energy value creation, and spiritual value creation, is new in how it's packaged for most people when they see it. So I get a ton of questions. And when people talk about value, where they typically go first is I think about money when it comes to value. I don't think about the other categories of value. But as they sit with it a little bit and we start talking about it, it makes a lot of sense. It feels different. It feels better. It's like, oh, wait a minute. This really is a complete way of thinking about value creation. So again, the categories, and I've talked about this a lot in my podcast, are material value creation. That's money, material things. I think everybody gets that. The world really is focused on that. And I think sometimes, quite a bit, too much focused on it, I would say. I never say it can't only be about the money. I think it's really, really important. It just has to be in balance with other ways of creating value. The second is emotional energy. Talked a lot about this. I believe positive emotional energy is the scarcest commodity on the planet. It supercharges everything else that we do. It is so important. And as long as it takes to cultivate material value creation, whether it's in a job supporting your family, starting a new business and building that, it takes just as long and maybe even, I would say, more work to cultivate the emotional energy value. So it's not a concept that you say, hey, I understand it. It makes total sense. And you move on. No, there's really literally no end to how far you can take this. And then the third category, the spiritual value creation, it's incredibly important. It's at its core, it's about connectedness. And I start with myself. How connected am I to how I feel, how I see the world, how I make decisions? And then it goes out to my family, it goes out to friends, colleagues, and then communities that are important to me. What are the things I can intentionally do to strengthen those things? What does it feel like to be part of a really healthy, connected community where everybody has each other's back? It's incredible. It feels great when you have that. And then that goes all the way to a higher power. And that can mean something different really to everyone. So the spiritual value creation bucket also takes a lot of time to fully cultivate it. And I would argue there's no end to how far that can go. So when you look at all three of those, the material, the emotional energy, the spiritual, keeping those in balance, I mean, that's really what this is about. And it takes folks quite a while to get their heads around that. And what I would say, if it's not in balance, you don't feel right. I mean, and that's how I've noticed it manifesting for me. And the more I work on it, and I've been working on it for quite a while, I'm more fulfilled today at 63 years old than I've ever been in my entire life. And it's because of the work I'm doing in this holistic value creation model for myself personally. And my most important number as an individual for me personally, as I think about it, is fulfillment. And that seems to be steadily climbing because I am focused on this. The holistic value creation model can be applied to decision making. Everything I look at, it goes through the lens of how is this creating value? And it could be family members, talking about, well, I don't have enough money. I can't do this. And so wait a minute, let's look at the whole thing. So yes, maybe you're not contributing an equal share to this project, family goal, whatever it is, financially. But let's look at the emotional energy and the spiritual value that you create here. Super important to make that happen. And it changes how they look at it. It's really cool to hear family members say, wow, I am the one that drives improving and growing the emotional energy in the family, or the connectedness side of it. It just feels a lot better doing it that way. So now they're not worried or feeling bad because, they're not contributing financially the way some other family members who have a real strength around material value creation can do that. I also look at the world if I have a loss. So, let's say I invested in a company and I lost some money. And in the last year, I did have a loss in one business that I invested in. It was about $300,000. And I looked at a lot of the investors that were in this deal, and they were really, really upset that they lost their money, and they really focused on that. But I was looking at the whole thing and saying, well, the emotional energy with the team that was working on creating the value was incredible. I was in the middle of that to a large degree. That felt great. The spiritual value creation, the connectedness, there's a number of relationships I have that I never would have had I not gotten involved with that deal. So yes, there was a partner in the deal that made, I would say, a lot of poor decisions that largely led to this thing going under. But when I weigh it all out and I look at the material piece, so here's 300,000 for myself. I was hoping to get a return, keep cultivating that. Not everything works. I get it. But when I balance the loss against the gained emotional energy value and the spiritual or connectedness value, I'm at a net positive. And that's how I felt about it as I went through. It was really a non-event for me emotionally. And if I want to leverage the new relationships to cultivate more material value creation, I can do that. And I was able to generate that as well. Another way to look at it is to think about struggle. How do we apply any struggle to create more value in the world? And do we value struggle as a way to be able to create more value? And struggle to me is just any effort to, gain a capability, a character trait, something we're working on with ourselves, or improve a life situation. And I've had a number of things that I would call unhealthy struggles. There's a lot of very healthy, normal struggles in life, but there are unhealthy struggles. There can be intentionally designed struggles. About 18, 19 months ago, I went down really hard with systemic lupus. And boy, is that painful, and started doing a lot of research and how can I go through this and come out the other side creating value, because I'm looking at it through that lens. I came up with protocols to where I didn't have to take any drugs going through this, no steroids, no immunosuppressants, no pain medications, nothing. And I've come out of it better than just about anybody else. When I say come out that I know, when I say come out of it, I'm talking about putting it more into remission. And so between things like hyperbaric oxygen, my diet, intermittent fasting, red light, a number of things, and for sure just kept moving through the pain. And boy, was the pain impressive. There were months where I could barely get out of bed. The value I'm creating now from this is, one, friends and colleagues that have this disease, this autoimmune disease. I'm helping them manage it better with these protocols. And then interestingly, I love to play guitar. I've played my whole life. I couldn't some days even make a fist, barely move my hands. So when I could play, I would explore individual notes more deeply. And it made me a better guitar player. It's funny when people ask, well, what was that like? And I said, well, the best thing about lupus is I became a better guitar player, because I'm way more nuanced in how I play. And I just feel like a whole universe sort of opened up there to me and how to play more. So some folks, and I've met them that have systemic lupus, have made it their identity, and it's a victim identity. And that's not nearly as healthy as having a value creation identity. So no matter what the struggle is, we can come out of it, even if it's unhealthy, leveraging that to create more value in the world. Another thing I like about this holistic value creation model is it gives confidence and focus. I hear a number of people tell me after they've worked with this for a while that they feel more confident than ever in the work that they're doing, the things they want to accomplish, because it's objectively measurable value they're creating. It's not value virtue signaling. A lot of folks say, add value and all, it feels like virtue signaling going through. What I'm talking about is creating objectively measurable value, material value, emotional energy value, and connectedness or spiritual value. Like objectively, how do you measure it? So when these individuals are focusing on it, and I've noticed the same thing, and it's been happening for a while, no matter what's going on the outside that's trying to take you off your game to create this value, you have more confidence, and it creates this shield because of that confidence and the value that you're objectively measuring, that you're creating. The shield prevents all the outside influences from getting in your way. And for me, it's a great hack emotionally. I think everybody has, I wouldn't say, negative self-talk. Maybe that's a way to think about it, but limiting self-talk, things that get in the way of creating the value that you want. Well, once we're objectively focused on the value we want to create and we are measuring it, all these other things, my hack that would get in the way of creating the value, my hack is, does that have anything to do with the value I'm trying to create? Does it have anything to do with reality, the facts, the conditions that are surrounding this value I want to create? And if the answer is no, then I keep moving forward. So it just keeps me hyper focused no matter what is happening in the world, internal or external influences to take me off my game. So this really is a way of interacting with the world. It's a lens for making decisions, helping us, certainly myself, helping me emotionally get stronger, healthier in all aspects. And there's literally no end to how we can cultivate holistic value creation. And as I said in the beginning of this session here, it takes just as long to cultivate each one of those categories. It's not a concept that you understand and move on. And I stress this point because a lot of people say, oh, yeah, I get that. But then I watch them. It's like, no, you really don't. And this is something to work on for your entire life.